8 languages. I can move between them the way most people switch from one hand to the other, without thinking, without noticing the seam. English, Russian, Mandarin, German, French, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese. I dream in at least 3 of them, and when I'm tired, I sometimes start counting in a 4th. But for 3 years at Kessler and Vaughan International, my personnel file said exactly one thing under languages: English. Native. That was it. One line. One safe, unremarkable line that nobody ever thought to question. There was a reason I built that wall, and the reason wasn't shame. My father was a literary translator, one of the best of his generation. My mother sat in a soundproof booth at the back of conference halls and turned 12 heads of state into one calm voice, live, with a 2-second delay and no room to be wrong. I grew up in the spaces between countries, a year in Lisbon, 3 in Shanghai, a long stretch in a gray apartment in Moscow, where I learned to read Cyrillic off cereal boxes before I could ride a bike. Language wasn't a subject I studied. It was the water I was raised in. And then a company took it all from us. A shipping conglomerate hired my parents' small agency to translate a set of contracts, use the work, refuse to pay, and when the deal soured, they blamed my parents' errors in the press to cover their own. There were no errors. There was never a single error. But a rich company with a legal department can print any version of the truth it wants, and a 2-person agency cannot fight back. My father's heart gave out 14 months later. My mother followed him within the year, quietly, the way she did everything. I was 23, and I had buried the 2 people who taught me that language was a bridge, buried them because someone with more money decided their words were disposable. So I made a decision. I would take my gift, and I would fold it up small, and I would put it somewhere no corporation could ever reach it again. I got a job as a junior contract clerk. I said I spoke English. I rented a 1-bedroom with a radiator that clanked like a dying machine every winter. I adopted a gray cat and named him Tolstoy because he was fat and judgmental and stared at me like he knew every secret I was keeping. I earned $41,000 a year, and I was, for the first time in a long time, invisible. Invisible felt like safety. That was the deal I made with myself. It held for 3 years. It broke on the night of the company gala. Kessler and Vaughan threw a lavish thing every autumn in a hotel ballroom with chandeliers the size of cars. 200 employees, an open bar, and our CEO, Warren Ashby, in a suit that cost more than my furniture, standing at a podium and enjoying the sound of his own voice. He spent 10 minutes on gratitude and grit and the storms we've weathered as a family. Then he smiled a particular smile, the smile of a man about to do something clever, and he switched languages. He switched to Russian. Next quarter, he said in fluent, confident Russian, every member of the Russian desk in this room receives a 40% bonus. You have earned it. You are the future of this firm. 200 people applauded. Most of them had no idea what he'd said. They clapped because everyone else was clapping, because a man in an expensive suit was clearly saying something warm. But I understood every syllable. 40%. To the 6 people on the Russian desk, plus Warren himself. 7 people. It had nothing to do with me. I told myself it had nothing to do with me. Beside me sat Sloane Pierce, head of the Continental desk and lead of the Russian team. Her whole face opened up like a window. She turned to me, glowing, and asked, "Did you catch any of that, Nora?" I shook my head. "No, I don't speak Russian." She gave me a look I had seen 100 times. The soft, warm, pitying smile of someone who has just been reminded of how far above you they stand. "Of course you don't," she said. "You do the English filing. 41 grand a year, right? Bless you. Somebody's got to." I said nothing. I had a lot of practice saying nothing. When the speeches ended, I gathered my coat to leave. My phone buzzed. It was Dana Okafor, my only real friend in the building, who worked in HR and had accidentally learned one of my secrets the year before when she caught me reading a Portuguese newspaper in the break room and I hadn't been quick enough to hide it. "Dana, you understood that Russian bonus thing, didn't you? 40%. Why is your hand not up?" Me. "Leave it alone. I don't want the attention." Dana. "Nora. Your radiator sounds like a haunted submarine." Your salary is 41,000. This raise makes it 57. Talk. I put the phone away and walked toward the elevators. And that was where I made my mistake, because Warren Ashby was already standing there waiting, and beside him was Grant Mercer, our VP, and the two of them were talking, in Russian. Clean move, Grant was saying, low, amused. Only the desk understands it, so you look generous to everyone and you only actually pay 7 people. Warren chuckled. Announcing it in Russian makes me sound like I have vision, global reach. The clerks just hear a nice man being kind. He shook his head. Speaking of clerks, that little English girl, the quiet one, Vale. 3 years and she's still worth 40 grand. Some people are just built to stay small. The elevator arrived. I stepped in behind them, my face perfectly professionally blank. They kept talking, certain I was furniture. Who are we sending on the Sorokin deal next week? Grant asked. Sloan. Her Russian's the strongest we've got. I heard Nikolai Sorokin destroyed the last team that pitched him, made a translator cry and walked out. Sloan can handle him. The doors opened at the lobby. I stepped out first. Behind me, Warren switched back to English, smooth as a coin flip. Vale. The proofread on the Hargrove contract, on my desk tomorrow morning. Of course, Mr. Ashby, I said. I didn't look back. What none of them knew, what I never told a soul, was that the Hargrove contract they were so proud of had been translated by Sloan, 40,000 words, and in the version sitting on my desk that night, I had already quietly corrected 51 of her mistakes. My name would never appear on it. The line would read, Reviewed Language Services. Sloan genuinely believed her work was flawless. She had believed that for years, because I had spent years making it look that way. The next morning, I placed the corrected Hargrove draft on Warren's desk and went back to my corner. Dana appeared at my cubicle within minutes, holding 2 coffees and an expression that meant gossip. You hear who's got Sorokin? She said. Sloan, I heard. You know who Nikolai Sorokin is? She leaned in and dropped her voice. 35, Russian-born, Swiss-based, steel and shipping. His holding company is worth more than some countries. He speaks 5 languages, has a reputation for a temper, and the last 3 firms that tried to negotiate with him got shredded because he decides in the first 10 minutes whether you're worth his time. That has nothing to do with me, I said. Doesn't it? Sloane's gonna walk in there and get filleted. Even if she does, it's not my problem. Dana sighed at me the way she always did, like I was a puzzle she'd given up solving. She wandered off, and around 11, Sloan herself swept past my desk and dropped a thick stack of paper in front of me hard enough to rattle my pen cup. Nora, organize these for me. English background files on Sorokin. I need everything ready for next week. I looked at the pile, 50-some pages of English briefing material on Sorokin Holdings. This isn't my assignment, I said. You're in language services and I run language services, so everything is your assignment. Problem? She'd been given the Continental desk lead only 2 months earlier, and she wore the authority like a coat 3 sizes too big. Oh, and there's a strategy meeting for the Sorokin account tomorrow. You don't need to come. It's above your level. You'd just be lost. I understand, I said. She left. On Slack, Dana lit up with a string of angry faces. Dana. I heard her. Who does she think she's talking to? Me. I'm used to it. Dana. If you actually showed her what you can do, she wouldn't be fit to carry your bag. Me. I don't want to. Dana. What are you afraid of? I didn't answer, because I didn't have a clean answer. Afraid of being seen, afraid of someone typing my parents' names into a search bar and finding the old headlines, the ones that called their work sloppy, the lie that killed them. Afraid that if I opened that door even an inch, all of it would come flooding back through. I took the 50 pages home. I read every one. And I didn't just read them. I built Sloan a 20-page summary, organized by deal history, key personnel, and risk. On page 9, I highlighted something in bright yellow. A recent amendment to EU Eurasian tariff schedules that would slice about 11% off any margin on the exact goods Sorokin shipped. I flagged it 3 times. I practically drew arrows. I told myself I was just being thorough. I told myself it wasn't for me. That night I made eggs for dinner because eggs were what was in the fridge, and Tolstoy sat on the table watching me eat with his flat golden stare. "I fixed 51 of her mistakes today, Tolstoy," I said. "She has no idea." He blinked once, slowly, and went to sleep. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Is this Miss Nora Vale?" A dry, careful voice. "This is Mr. Ellery, from Whitmore and Blake, regarding your parents' estate. There are documents that still require your signature. I've told your office I don't want it. Donate it. Miss Vale, the storage archive alone. Please stop calling." I hung up. Tolstoy tilted his head at me. "It's nothing," I told him, and turned the phone face down on the table. They dragged me into the Sorokin negotiation as the coffee pourer. It happened because Warren himself came down to language services the following Wednesday, a rare event like weather, and announced that Sorokin had moved the meeting up. He was flying in the next afternoon. Was Sloane ready? "Absolutely ready," Sloane said, standing so fast her chair rolled back. "I've reviewed everything." "Good. Take someone for on-site support." Sloane scanned the room. Her first choice was out sick. Her gaze traveled across the desks and, with obvious reluctance, landed on me. "Nora can come. She'll take notes and manage logistics. I'll handle the actual work." Warren looked at me the way you look at a chair you're deciding whether to move. "Her? Don't worry, Mr. Ashby. She's more than qualified to carry the bags." And so, the next afternoon, I found myself walking into the lobby of a 40-floor glass tower with a canvas tote over my shoulder, while Sloane clicked ahead of me in brand-new heels and a suit she'd clearly bought for exactly this moment. She gave the receptionist her name grandly, Sloane Pierce, Kessler and Vaughn, and my assistant, and I didn't correct her. We waited 15 minutes. She reapplied her lipstick twice. "When we go in," she told me, "you sit in the corner, you take notes, and you do not open your mouth. Executives like Sorokin can smell an amateur." "Understood," I said. An assistant in wireframe glasses led us up to the 38th floor. When the conference room doors opened, I saw him. Nikolai Sorokin, early 30s, tall, a gray suit worn without a tie, the top button open. His face wasn't rude exactly. It was worse than rude. It was completely unbothered, the face of a man who had decided the outcome of this meeting before we arrived and was only staying to confirm it. He was reading a file. He didn't look up. We sat. To his left were his general counsel and a young woman with a translation device on the table in front of her. 5 seconds of silence. Then Sorokin raised his eyes and he spoke, in Russian, fast and sharp as a scalpel. "Your firm's proposal cites tariff figures from 2022. It is now nearly the end of 2024. Explain to me why I am reading 2-year-old numbers." Sloane froze. She understood the words, barely, but she had not expected to be attacked in the first sentence. "Mr. Sorokin," she began, "that draft was preliminary," in English. "I asked in Russian," he cut in, still in Russian. "Answer in Russian. I did not fly here to speak through a machine." Her face went scarlet. She switched, stumbling. "The draft is preliminary. We will update the numbers." Her grammar was schoolbook stiff and her honorifics were already sliding. "Update them," Sorokin said. "Has anyone on your team read the new EU-Eurasian Tariff Amendment? Articles 4 and 9 change my landed cost on precisely the goods in this deal. Were you aware?" Sloane's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She didn't know. But I knew, because it was on page 9 of the summary I'd built for her, the one I'd highlighted in yellow, 3 times, with arrows. She hadn't read it. "I'll have to verify that back at our office," she managed. Sorokin set his pen down with a soft, terrible click. "You have misused the formal register 3 times since you sat down. The first time I let it go. The second, I said nothing. On the third, do you understand what repeatedly using the wrong honorific implies in a room like this?" Sloane had gone from red to white. "It implies either that you do not respect me or that you are not competent. I would like to know which." The general counsel gave a tiny, almost invisible shake of his head. The deal was dead. Sorokin closed his folder and began to stand, buttoning his jacket. "If this is the caliber Kessler and Vaughn sends," he said, in English now, "for our benefit, I'll be reconsidering the relationship entirely. And I felt the two voices start up in my head, the ones that had been fighting for 3 years. Not your business. You pour the coffee. This is the biggest account the firm has. If it collapses, the layoffs come in the fourth quarter, and a $40,000 clerk is the first name on the list. He was already halfway out of his chair. I spoke, in flawless native Russian. Mr. Sorokin, give us 5 more minutes. Every head in the room turned to me. Sloane's eyes went round with shock. Sorokin stopped, mid-motion, and looked at me for the first time. And you are? Nora Vale, an assistant in language services, the one who carries the bags and pours the coffee. He didn't smile, but he sat back down. 5 minutes. I closed my laptop and spoke directly, without notes. The amendment you mentioned, Article 4, widens the country of origin standard from a 6-digit to an 8-digit classification. Article 9 raises the environmental levy from 2.4 to 3.3%. Taken together, on your product basket, your true margin erosion is roughly 9%, not the 11 your analysts probably told you. His eyebrow moved a fraction. 9. Show me the math. You route through a bonded free trade zone in Rotterdam. That exemption absorbs about 2 points of the classification cost, so the net effect is 9, not 11. Silence. 3 full seconds of it. His general counsel began flipping urgently through his own files as if checking my numbers. Where, Sorokin said slowly, did you learn to speak like this? I lived in Moscow, among other places. Your register is perfect, and you claim to be an assistant. Yes. He looked at Sloane, then back at me. Your 5 minutes are up, but I'll give you another 10, on one condition. For the rest of this meeting, you do the talking, not her. Sloane turned to me, and her expression was somehow worse than when Sorokin had been dismantling her. She can't possibly— She talks, Sorokin said, or you both leave right now. I glanced at Sloane. Ms. Pierce, I said quietly. Shall I go on? She said nothing. Her jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscle jumping. I turned back to Sorokin. Let's begin again from section 1. For the next 40 minutes, I ran the entire negotiation in Russian. Tariff structures, freight routing, currency hedging, risk allocation, force majeure. He threw 3 deliberately vicious questions at me. The first was about a cultural point in a Gulf subcontract, and I answered it with a piece of Arabic commercial custom, which made his eyebrow twitch again. You speak Arabic, too. A little. The second compared his pricing against a Chinese supplier, and I answered by naming the exact product codes from the Chinese vendor's own catalog. The third was in French, a trap buried in a subordinate clause, and I stepped over it without slowing down. Sloane sat beside me for 40 minutes and did not say one word. When it was done, Sorokin stood and extended his hand, not to Sloane, to me. The framework is sound, he said. My legal team will align with yours on the details. His grip was dry and brief and exact. Vale, you're wasting yourself pouring coffee. I gave him a polite smile and did not take the bait. In the parking garage, Sloane stopped walking and turned on me. You lied to everyone. I said my primary work is in English. It is. That was not primary work in there. Your Russian is better than mine. And where in God's name did Arabic come from? It's not on your resume. The deal was saved, Ms. Pierce. Isn't that what matters? You did this on purpose. You've been sitting on all of it, waiting for a chance to humiliate me. I said nothing. You think one performance in front of Sorokin changes anything? Her voice cracked. Back at the office, you're still a clerk. She snatched her bag and stormed off, heels hammering the concrete. Standing there alone in the cold gray light of the garage, I felt an exhaustion I couldn't name. I hadn't wanted this. I honestly hadn't. But I hadn't wanted to lose my job either, and somewhere between those two things there was no clean place to stand. The next morning, Sloane was in Warren Ashby's office before I'd even sat down. The glass wall didn't stop much. She went completely around me. She spoke out of turn in front of a client. She showed zero respect for the chain of command. Warren's voice cut through, bored. Was the deal saved? Yes, but— Then that's all I care about. That account is worth $20 million a year. If it had died in that room, I'd have dissolved this entire desk by lunch. Mr. Ashby, she committed resume fraud. Her file says English only, and she's clearly fluent in Russian. That's dishonesty. Did she ever write down that she couldn't speak Russian? Well, no, but her resume. My resume doesn't say I play golf, Sloan. I still shoot 18 holes every Sunday. Does that make me a liar? Get back to work. The door opened. Sloan walked out with her eyes locked on mine for one long, poisonous second. The message was unmistakable. This isn't over. By 10, the whole floor was whispering, and then the phone calls started. Sorokin's office had rung Warren personally that morning and made a single request. From now on, Nora Vale handles all translation on the account, by name. At 2 o'clock, they put me in the conference room. Warren, Grant Mercer, Sloan, 2 lawyers. Warren didn't waste time. Vale, Sorokin has requested you specifically. As of today, you're assigned to the account task force. Your title stays as it is. Your salary stays as it is, pending review at the end of the phase. Understood. Understood, I said. Sloan made a small, cold sound but held her tongue. The account had 3 phases. The framework was set. Next came the contract clauses and the legal documentation, all of it required in English, Russian, and Mandarin. Grant looked at me. Can you handle all 3 versions? Yes. 3 languages, Sloan cut in. We don't actually know the depth of her Russian, let alone Mandarin. What if she makes a critical error and it costs us? Yesterday answered that question, Warren said flatly. Anything else? She went quiet. That afternoon, Sorokin's people sent over the first tranche, 68 pages, all in Russian. I translated it into Mandarin in a little under 2 hours, then spent another 90 minutes polishing the English. Sloan passed my desk 3 times, each time slowing to read my screen. On the 3rd pass, she muttered, "Moving that fast. Aren't you worried about mistakes?" "No," I said without looking up. "You should be, though." At 8 that evening, I sent the drafts to Grant. 10 minutes later, he replied, "Speed and accuracy well beyond expectation." Then a second message. "Vale, what exactly have you been doing with yourself for 3 years?" I didn't answer that one either. I went home and fed Tolstoy, and my phone rang. Unknown number. A low, steady, unhurried voice. "Nora, this is Nikolai Sorokin. Your VP gave me your number. Mr. Sorokin. The 68 pages, any problems?" "None. It is the cleanest business Russian I have seen from a firm in 3 years." A pause. "You are not an entry-level talent." "My role is entry-level. I am aware, which is exactly why it interests me." Another pause. "I have an internal meeting on Thursday about our Gulf expansion. I need an Arabic interpreter in the room. My office should arrange it through your account manager, but I'm asking you directly. Can you make it?" I hesitated for one heartbeat. "I can." The Gulf meeting was where I sealed it. 3 representatives from a major Emirati construction group, their lead in a white kandura with the stillness of a man who has made 1,000 men wait. His own interpreter sat beside him. 15 minutes in, the lead leaned to his interpreter and murmured, in Arabic, quietly, privately, not meant for the room, "Their price is too high. We push for a 20% cut. If he refuses, we walk and take the other bid." His interpreter didn't translate it. It wasn't meant to be shared, but I heard it as clearly as if he'd said it to me. I kept my head down, kept typing my notes, and I angled my screen a few degrees towards Sorokin. On it, in English, I'd written, "Their lead just told his interpreter they'll demand 20% off and walk if you hold firm. It's a bluff. They already prefer you." Sorokin's eyes flicked to the screen for half a second. His face didn't change. And then he did something beautiful. He preempted them, offering not a discount, but a tiered structure that turned their imagined 20% into performance milestones, while locking them into a 3-year exclusivity. On paper, the number looked lower. In truth, over the term, Sorokin came out well ahead. The Emirati lead hesitated, then signed. When the room emptied, only Sorokin, his assistant, and I remained. "You understood him," Sorokin said. It wasn't a question. A little. More than a little. Without that warning, that clause would have cost me several million. He studied me. "Nora, how many languages do you actually speak?" I hesitated, and then, for the first time in 3 years, I told the truth out loud to someone who wasn't Dana or a cat. 8, English, Russian, Mandarin, German, French, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese. His assistant's eyes nearly left his skull. Sorokin didn't blink. 8. And you earn $41,000 a year at a mid-tier logistics firm. Yes. Does that seem rational to you? It was my choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he took a card from his jacket. Matte black, one line of text, a personal cell number, no title, no logo. The kind of card you only give to someone you already know the size of. Come to me, he said. I'll build a division around you. Name your number. I took the card, thanked him, and told him I wasn't ready to move. He didn't push. You can change your mind at any time, he said. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I got back to the office at 7, expecting the floor to be dark, and the lights were on, and Sloane Pierce was sitting at my desk with my monitor glowing. What are you doing? She spun around. Your screen was unlocked. I was locking it for you. I lock it when I leave. She stood. You went to Sorokin again today, didn't you? As an Arabic interpreter. How many more of these are you hiding? She grabbed her bag and hurried out. When I checked the machine, she'd been into my personal folders. What was in there? Practice pieces, mostly. Old translation exercises I did to keep sharp. A French poem, a Portuguese short story, a Mandarin news column. I deleted them all, set a new password, and felt something in my stomach go cold. Because I knew Sloane. She hadn't been snooping for fun. Whatever she was building, it was coming. Dana called that night. You will not believe what I dug up in expense reports today. A dramatic pause. Sloane and Grant Mercer. 17 client dinners in 6 months. Every single one at the same resort out west. Do the math, Nora. That has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Grant is the only reason Sloane made desk lead. Her actual skills are nowhere near yours. We don't spread rumors without proof, Dana. Fine, just watch your back. She wasn't reading your recipes. She was right. 2 days later, a company-wide email went out under Grant Mercer's name. Mandatory audit of employee skill declarations. The gist: management had discovered that some staff hadn't fully or accurately reported their professional skills at hiring, and everyone had 1 week to update their profiles or face disciplinary action. The trap was simple and elegant. Force me to formally admit I'd hidden 8 languages, then write me up for having concealed them. A clerk with a disciplinary strike on file is the easiest name to cut when the layoffs come. But that was only the opening move. The real strike came on Friday morning, and it was uglier than a paperwork trap. Dana intercepted me in the stairwell, breathless. Sloane filed a formal misconduct report against you, with Warren directly. On what grounds? Corporate espionage. She's saying that while you were embedded at Sorokin's offices, you leaked our internal pricing and bid strategy to their team. I went still. She says she has proof. Screenshots. A text thread between you and Sorokin's assistant, spelling out our margins. She already showed Warren. He wants you in his office at 8 sharp for a hearing. I made myself breathe. The screenshots. When are they dated? Last Wednesday, 2 in the afternoon. Something loosened in my chest, just slightly. Last Wednesday at 2, I was sitting in the department budget meeting, in the glass room, with 20 witnesses. That's what I said, but she's got them printed and Warren's taking them seriously. Dana grabbed my arm. Nora, what do you need? 3 things, I said, and for the first time in a long while, my voice was completely steady. The badge-in logs and the room booking record for last Wednesday afternoon. Can you pull those? Done. The full server export of my messages with Sorokin's office. They all went through the enterprise system, right? Everyone. Immutable cloud backup. She can fake a picture, but she can't touch the server. And, I said, those 17 resort expense reports. Do you still have access? Dana's eyes lit like a struck match. Are we finally using them? Not to destroy her, as insurance. If she tries to bury me, Warren needs to understand that her word can't be trusted about anything. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in the empty break room until 2 in the morning and assembled everything. Logs, mail trails, delivery receipts, timestamps. Every real message I'd sent Sorokin's assistant lived on the company's own servers, sealed with metadata no user could edit. Sloan could forge a JPEG. She could not forge the machine. Around 11, my phone rang. Sorokin. I hear you've been accused of leaking to us. Word travels fast. Do you need my lawyers? No, I can handle it myself. You're certain? Completely. Good. If it goes wrong, call me. It won't go wrong, but call me anyway. I hung up and texted Dana to feed Tolstoy because the poor cat was going to miss his dinner. She wrote back, "He's fed and furious. Go win." At 8:30, I walked into Warren Ashby's office. 3 people were already seated: Warren, Grant Mercer, and Sloan Pierce. A set of printed screenshots sat squarely in the middle of the desk. Warren looked grim. "Vale, Ms. Pierce alleges that you passed our proprietary pricing to Sorokin Holdings during your assignments there. These are the screenshots she provided. What's your response?" I glanced down, exactly as Dana described. My profile photo, my name, a stilted little conversation about our margins, clearly written by someone who didn't actually understand how a real trade discussion sounds. "They're fabricated," I said, "and I can prove it in 3 ways. Sloan laughed. "Of course you'd say that." First, I opened my laptop and turned it toward Warren, pulling up the Enterprise messaging server. This is the complete, unedited log of every message between me and Sorokin's assistant on our own platform, with server verification and metadata. Ms. Pierce claims her thread happened last Wednesday at 2 p.m. The server shows total silence between us during that entire window, not one message. "She could have deleted them," Sloan said. "Enterprise Cloud Archives can't be deleted from a user terminal," I said. "Ask IT. They'll confirm it in 5 minutes." Warren's eyes narrowed at the screen. Second, I laid down the documents Dana had pulled. Last Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m., I was physically in the department budget meeting, in the glass conference room. Here are the badge-in logs. Here is the room booking. 20 people can place me in that room. I could not have been texting anyone's assistant our margins from a meeting I was demonstrably sitting inside. Sloan's face had begun to change. Third, I said, and I pointed at the printout itself. This is the detail that matters. Look at the message text. It references the account by its internal code name, Project Meridian. But Project Meridian didn't exist last Wednesday. That code name wasn't created until this Monday, 5 days after the date on this screenshot. I can show you the ticket where it was assigned. Whoever wrote this fake used a name that hadn't been invented yet. The room went very, very quiet. Sloan shot to her feet. "That proves nothing. You could have... Where did these come from, Sloan?" Warren's voice had dropped, and it was cold now. "I found them saved on her... on my machine," I said. "I reset my password the day I caught you sitting at my desk. These files never touched my drive. You didn't find them. You made them." Warren turned slowly to Grant Mercer. "Grant, do you have anything to say about this?" Grant Mercer kept his eyes on the table and said nothing. "Grant," Sloan said, and her voice broke on the word, "say something." He finally looked up, and his face was cold and closed, a man protecting himself. "You went too far this time, Sloan." The last of the color drained from her face. She looked hollowed out, like a house after the power's been cut. Warren exhaled through his nose, long and heavy. Forging evidence to frame a colleague is a termination offense. He said it quietly, which was worse than shouting. "Your desk lead title is revoked, effective now. Your annual rating is a fail. If you say one more word, we do this through legal instead of HR. Pack your things." Sloan's lips trembled. She turned to me, eyes bloodshot. "Are you happy now?" I looked at her without heat. "From the day I walked into this building, Sloan, you were the one starting fights. I never wanted one with you. I stayed small because staying small kept me safe. You couldn't stand that I existed quietly. So no, I'm not happy. I'm just done being your target." She grabbed her bag and left. The door didn't slam. Somehow that was worse. Then it was just the 3 of us. Warren looked at me with something that was almost shame. "Vale, I should have seen what you were a long time ago. This company has undervalued you. What's done is done, Mr. Ashby. Your assignment on the account stands, and effective today, you're Deputy Director of Language Services. Base salary $120,000. Your account bonuses are separate. We'll talk further numbers privately. Thank you. He hesitated. One more thing. Is Sorokin trying to take you? He's made an offer. And? I'm still here. For now. Warren nodded, and I watched him understand that for now was doing a lot of work. By noon, the whole company knew. The Slack channels caught fire. She speaks 8 languages and made $40,000 for 3 years. Then someone found the archive logs. Wait, she's been quietly fixing every one of Sloane's drafts for years. Over 100 contracts. By the time the story reached the far end of the office, it had become legend, and I could not have cared less about being a legend. I just wanted my desk, my cat, and a radiator that worked. The beacon of what came next arrived on a Tuesday, and it arrived by phone. Mr. Ellery from the estate firm called again. This time I didn't hang up. Miss Vale, under Swiss law, if your parents' assets aren't settled within 6 months, the holdings transfer to a state trust. I need to know your wishes. A pause. There's a matter your parents were specific about. Beyond the accounts and the small property, there's an archive, a private storage facility in Geneva. Your father directed that its contents be released to you, and only if you came forward to claim them yourself. What contents? His working papers, his personal library, and, I'm told, a manuscript. His own translation of a work he considered his life's project. The instructions were very clear that this could not simply be donated with the rest. It was meant for you. I sat down slowly. Tolstoy climbed into my lap and pressed his weight against my chest. I told him to keep the accounts and the property and the donation, as I'd always said. But the archive, I would take that. I would come. I flew to Geneva 2 weeks later. With Warren's blessing and a leave of absence, he approved without a single question. The storage facility was a climate-controlled vault on the edge of the city, quiet as a chapel. A manager unlocked a steel door, and inside were shelves. My father's books, hundreds of them, and boxes of papers, and at the center, wrapped in acid-free cloth, a manuscript nearly 1,000 pages thick. It was his translation of a Russian epic he'd worked on for 20 years and never published, because he'd never believed it was finished. On the first page, in his unmistakable slanting hand, was a note. For Nora, who will finish what I could not, because she hears the music, not just the words. Attached to the box was a smaller envelope, sealed, with my name on it. I sat on the cold floor of that vault for 10 minutes before I could open it. My dear Nora, it read, if you are reading this, then you have finally come to the door I left open for you, which means you stopped running. Your mother and I always knew that if we were gone, your instinct would be to go quiet, to fold up the languages we gave you and hide them somewhere the world couldn't touch, because every word we taught you would sound like our voices. You would taste Lisbon in your Portuguese and hear the Moscow trams in your Russian, and it would hurt too much to speak at all. But listen to me, my clever girl. What happened to us was not the fault of language. It was the fault of men who did not deserve it. Do not punish the gift for the sins of the people who abused it. Your mother spent her life carrying other people's words safely across the gap between them. I spent mine trying to move beauty from one tongue into another without breaking it. You are the bridge we were building the whole time. Do not hide a bridge, Nora. A bridge is only worth something when people are allowed to cross it. Go and be seen. Go and be loud. Step into the room you were born to stand in. All our love, forever. Papa. There was a faint blur at the bottom of the page, and I could not tell whether it was left by his pen 5 years ago or by me, right then, on the floor. I came back different. The account closed on triumphant terms. Kessler and Vaughn cleared more from it than any single deal in the firm's history. Sloane Pierce resigned before the month was out. The misconduct finding and the quiet spread of those 17 resort receipts made her position impossible. Grant Mercer took a formal reprimand and became a very careful, very quiet man. I never gloated. When people brought it up in the channels, I wrote one line, focus on your accounts, and close the thread. People write their own endings. I had no interest in narrating hers. Warren offered me the director's chair and $150,000. I took it. In 11 months, I had gone from a $41,000 clerk in the corner to running the entire department, And on my first meeting as director, I looked down a long table at 20 translators and told them the truth, that I wouldn't waste anyone's time explaining the past, that going forward we would let the work speak, and that precision wasn't a preference in our business. It was the whole job, because a single wrong word in an international contract could cost millions. A young translator named Zoe asked shyly afterward if I'd teach her. Within a month, my after-hours group had 5 people in it, and the department's accuracy numbers had hit a record. And Nikolai Sorokin, Nikolai kept calling. Not only about business. He'd found out about my parents by then, the way he found out about everything, thoroughly and without apology. And one evening over a very quiet dinner, he told me plainly that a firm like mine was a cage built for someone smaller than I was, and that he wanted to build something the actual size of me. A cultural and translation division, cross-border publishing. He wanted, specifically, to bring my father's unfinished manuscript into the world and let me be the one to finish it. I told him I'd think about it. I did think about it. For 2 days, with Tolstoy sitting on the windowsill judging me the entire time. Then I said yes. Sometimes, even now, I think about the girl who sat by a clanking radiator eating eggs in the dark, so afraid of being seen that she made herself into furniture. She spoke 8 languages. She had a fortune she refused to touch, and a father's masterpiece waiting in a vault she wouldn't enter. And she believed, with her whole broken heart, that silence was the same thing as safety. It took a rich man speaking Russian in a garage, thinking I was nothing, to remind me of what I'd buried. My father told me to be loud. It took me 3 years and 1 impossible night to understand him. But I finally opened the door, and I have not been quiet since.